welcome back to Jen's Jungle, and today I'll be going over my top 10 small animal wheels. So lots of small animals either require a wheel or benefit from having a wheel, such as hamsters, degus, hedgehogs, mice, gerbils. In the past, most pet shops would only sell quite small, bad quality ones which would be so loud and so noisy. Growing up, it was quite a common thing for people to take their hamster wheels out their cage because they were so noisy. And this was obviously detrimental to the hamster. However, over the last few years, a whole range of wheels have now become readily available. And there's now a lot of choice about what to get for your small animal. So today I'll be going through my top 10. Now, I was hoping to do this with one of my hamsters. However, sadly, I've recently lost a couple of my hamsters. And my new hamster, Aunt Betty, who's not been fully introduced to this channel yet, isn't quite fully tamed yet, so I don't think she's quite ready for this. So instead, we are going to be using my Degus. They are going to demonstrate some of the wheels for us and show us how they are, because when it comes to small animal wheels, the only one who can fully review it is a small animal. So let's get on with my top 10. So I will be ranking these from worst to best, and we'll be discussing their quality, how well they actually go around or their wheelability, how quiet they are, their flexibility, how well can you adapt this to your cage, and finally the price. I'll be ranking each one out of 5 to give us a final score. Now this is just my opinions, you might have different opinions, and this is just a helpful guide of someone who's tried out all these wheels. Just a heads up that many of these wheels are used, so they are in furry states, but this is my experience of having them. Right, in number 10 is the Sarvik Rolly wheel. So this is a plastic wheel with a metal base. This one in particular is 10.5 inches or 27 centimetres. They do it in smaller versions as well, but I wouldn't recommend any of them. This is the only one that's really suitable. This is suitable for hamsters. It could be used for degus, although I would recommend going bigger if you can. Again, with hedgehogs could be used, but better to go bigger. It would also be suitable for mice and gerbils. For quality, I'm going to give this a 1 out of 5. The metal base is quite thin and flimsy. The plastic itself is okay, but it's fairly thin. But my main thing about this one is the way it connects to the stand means that it tips down. So there's quite a bend down and it's hard to get it tight enough to sort of stay straight. So this is where it really lacks in quality. So I'd only give it a 1. In terms of wheelability, it's okay, but not the best. It's easy enough to get going, but it doesn't sort of keep spinning. So I will give this a 2. For this, I'm going to also give this a 2. It's not the worst rattly one, but it can sometimes squeak a little bit. And there is a slight sort of noise to it. It could get a bit irritating. So I'd give this a 2. For flexibility, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. This is because you can adjust it on the stand slightly. So on the stand, you've got sort of your wires like you do on the side of a cage, and you can move it up and down. But it is still quite limited how much you can move it up and down. You can also take this off the stand and put it on the side of your cage. Finally, for price, this generally retails for about £15 in the UK. So that's not too bad for a large wheel. So I would give this a 4 for price. This gives it an overall score of 2.4 out of 5. It is an okay wheel, but definitely not my first choice. Next up we have the wooden wheel. I think this one in particular is Trixie's, but you can get this from different places. They're all quite similar. So this is a 11-inch wheel or 29 centimetres, so it is slightly bigger, but that small difference can make it much more comfortable for the animals. I'd be more likely to use this for a Degus or a hedgehog at a push. However, it is wooden, so it can get mucky and can be hard to clear. Many people sort of plastic coat the inside of this so that it doesn't absorb urine, but this is added effort and added expense, and we're just going to review it as it is. So definitely the wooden can be a downside. They can also chew it, which can be difficult, especially for animals such as Degus and Gerbils. Hamsters are less likely to chew as they're not such ferocious chewers, but they can still chew it. So for quality, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 10. It's not particularly thick wood. Also, the join doesn't tend to be the best. A lot of this is stuck together with either glue or nails, both of which can be problematic if they become exposed. So definitely a 2 for quality. For wheelability, I'm going to give this a 3. So it does wheel quite well, it's quite easy to get going, but there is a slight wobble to it. I don't know how much this impacts the animal, but I'm still going to say 3 out of 5 for wheelability. For quietness, I'm going to give this another 3. You can definitely hear it, but it's not that annoying rattling noise. It's not too bad. For flexibility, I'm going to have to give this a 1. It is what it is. It is fixed to the stand. You can't adjust the height, and you can't attach this to the side of your cage. I know some people put these on platforms or add stilts to them, but as I said, we're reviewing the wheels as is. Price wise, I'm going to give this a 3. They do vary in prices. I think around £20 is typical. I have seen some for more than 30 mark. I think Pets at Home now do a wooden one for closer to the 15 mark, but I think around 20 is typical. So I'm going to give this a 3. So this gets a score of 2.4 out of 5, which is actually the same as the Sarvet wheel, but just personal preference, I do slightly prefer this. So that's why it gets 9th place. In 8th place is the bucket wheel. So this is an all plastic wheel. Called a bucket wheel because it's kind of made out of the bottom of a bucket. Has sort of plastic piping stand. And this one in particular is a 10.5-inch wheel. It does curve in slightly, so it would be a bit small on the inside. They do come in lots of different sizes. So these could be used for most animals. The extra width of these wheels is good, so I would be more likely to use these for hedgehogs, so that I would get a bit of a bigger one for a hedgehog. Could also be used for a Degus, but it is quite thin plastic, so it would be chewed a lot. Would be suited for a hamster as well. Again, would stay clear of gerbils because of the plastic side of it, but you could adapt this for lots of animals. So quality wise, I would probably give this a 3. The wheel bit itself is quite thin, bendable plastic. The stand's not bad, it is a thicker, better quality plastic. But why I'm giving this 3 and not lower is because of the sort of wheel mechanism. I don't know quite what they've done with it. They've got like a mini wheel and metal bolts, but it does create a lovely mechanism, which feels good quality. So I'm going to give it a 3 for quality. For wheelability, it is not too bad. It does wheel quite nicely. Very slight wobble, but not too bad. I'd probably give this a 3 for wheelability, the same as the Trixie wooden wheel. For quietness, it is quite quiet. Tiny noise to it, but it's not too bad at all. So I'd probably give it a 4 for quietness. Flexibility, so you can't adjust this height and you can't attach this to the side of your cage, so it's going to have to be a 1 for flexibility. And finally for price, these do vary in price. but they are a bit more expensive, typically around the £30 to £40 mark. So I'm going to have to give this a 2 for price. So overall that gives it a score of 2.6 out of 5, putting it into 8th place. Next up is the Trixie wheel. So this is another plastic wheel with a metal base. This one is a little bit thinner than the others. So this would be fine for a hamster, perhaps a Degus, but I probably wouldn't use this for something like a hedgehog. Would be okay for gerbils, as they might chew the plastic, and mice I think this would be suitable for as well. Size wise, this is an 11-inch wheel or 28 centimetres. So it's not a too bad size. So quality wise, I would probably give this a 2, simply because the plastic at the front isn't the best. The wheel plastic's not too bad. And I think this stand metal is slightly better than Sarvik, but it's not amazing. So I'd give this a 2 out of 5 for quality. Wheelability. I would probably give this a 3.5 out of 5. It is not too bad. And what I do like about this is the little ridges inside it can help the animal get more traction. For quietness, it's not the best. There is a slight sort of noise as it rattles against its own stand. So I would probably give this a 2.5 for quietness. Flexibility. You can take this off the stand and attach it to the side of your cage, although you can't adjust the height of it on its stand. So I would give this a 2 for flexibility. So the price I think typically retails for about between £15 and £20 for one this size. So I will be giving it a 3 out of 5. This gives it an overall score of 2.6, which is the same as the previous one. But just out of personal preference, I'm going to put this in 7th place. In 6th place is the KT Comfort Wheel. This is a large plastic wheel with a metal base again. This is a 12-inch wheel or 31 centimetres. So this is big enough for your Degus, your hedgehogs, your rats, I believe, but can also be used for smaller animals as well. I like the fact that it is slightly wider, makes it much more useful for your hedgehogs or when 2 Degus want to run at the same time. However, it is quite a large wheel if you've got a hamster or something of the sort. So for quality, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. It's not the worst kind of plastic. The metal base feels reasonably strong. And it all feels secure. So I'd probably give this a 3 out of 5. For wheelability, I would probably give this a 4. It does run quite well. In terms of quietness, I'd probably give this a 3 as well. Slight rattle to it, but not too bad. You can definitely hear it, but it's not the worst. Flexibility. So you can take this off the stand and attach it to the side of the cage, but like the others, you can't adjust the height of it. So especially if you've got animals with deep bedding, this is a downside. So I would probably give this a 2. For price, I believe you typically get these for about £20. So I would probably give this a 2 for price. So overall, that gives it a score of 2.8 out of 5, putting it into 6th place. Next up, we have another KT wheel. This is the KT Silent Spinner. This one is rather used because I've had it a while. So I'll be taking into account how long I've had it when I score it. This is a well-used wheel, but it has served me very well. So this is, again, a plastic wheel, metal base. This one's quite hard to measure because it does dip in slightly. So the sort of running surface of it, I believe, is about 11.5 inches or 29 centimetres. So I would use this for hamsters, hedgehogs, Degus, rats. Could also be used for mice and gerbils. So for quality, this is thicker plastic than a lot of them. The stand is a bit thicker as well, and the mechanism on the back feels far better than the others. So I would give this a 4 out of 5 for quality. Wheelability. I quite like that. That wheels very nicely. I would probably give this probably a 3.5 out of 5. For quietness, I definitely hear this one more than the others. It's less of a rattle, but there's definitely a sound to it, which is a bit more audible. Not enough to keep you awake at night, but it might be slightly irritating. So I'd give this a 2.5 for quietness. Flexibility, it is stuck on the stand and you can't adjust the height. So I'd have to give this a 1 for flexibility. Price wise, I believe these typically go for about £25, so quite similar to the previous one. So I'd probably give this also a 3 for price. So overall, this gives it a score of 2.8. Now, in number 4 is a different wheel. This is a tic-tac wheel. So this is an all-metal wheel, metal stand, metal wheel. This one in particular is a 12-inch wheel, 30 centimetres. So suitable again, hedgehogs, degus, rats, hamsters. They do smaller sizes, which would be a possibility for different animals. For quality, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. These are exceptionally well made. Even when they do get a bit sort of old, like this one, I've had this one for years, in with like 20 degus. Typically all that happens is the colour fades a bit. They don't tend to actually stop their functioning at all, as long as you look after them right and don't let them get rusted. So that's why they're going to get a 5 for quality. For wheelability, these run very nicely. As I said, they are metal, so they take a bit more force to get going. But once they get going, they run very nicely. So I'm going to give it a 4 for wheelability. For quietness, they get another 4. These are quite quiet. You can't hear a lot of them. And they don't rattle, which is fantastic. Flexibility. So you can take these off and attach them to the side of your cage, although they do require a different connection if you're doing that. So the tic-tac wheels come normally with the wheel and the connection to attach it to the side of your cage. You have to get the stand separately. So you can attach the side of your cage. They also have 2 different settings for height. So you can adjust it slightly, but it's limited and you have to buy the different options. So I would give it a 3 for flexibility. Price, this is going to get a 1. These are expensive. The wheel itself typically goes for about £50. And if you want the stand, you have to buy that separately. That's normally about £30. So you're looking at about £80 for this wheel. It is the most expensive wheel. So they're going to get a 1 for the price. That gives it an overall rating of 3.4 out of 5, putting it into 4th place. Now getting into my top 3 wheels. In 3rd place is the Degus wheel. Now, I've got the slightly smaller version of this, but they do the bigger version. So although this one is 10 inches, they do different sizes as well. This size in particular would be suitable for maybe a small Syrian hamster, gerbils or mice, or dwarf hamsters. I wouldn't use this for degus or hedgehogs or rats, but they do bigger versions. So for quality, I'm probably going to give this a 4 out of 5. It is all plastic, but it does feel good quality plastic. There's a slight dip on it, so it doesn't quite stand straight. But it does feel well made, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. For wheelability, I would probably give this a 4. It does run quite smoothly. There's not a lot of jiggle to it, but it's slightly sort of firm to run. So I'm going to give it a 4. For quietness, I'm also going to give this a 4. It's slightly audible, but you wouldn't really notice it unless you're really listening to it. And it's certainly not something that would keep you up at night. So I would give this a 4. Flexibility. So these come with the movable stands. So I do like these because it means you can loosen it and move it up and down the stand. I don't think you'll be able to add this to the side of your cage, but it does move quite a lot up and down, which is great for deep bedding or different types of animals. So I'd give this a 4 for flexibility. Price, so I think it's about the £25–30 mark. They do vary slightly when you get them on deal or not, but that's the latest price I saw on Amazon. So I'd probably give it a 3 for price. This gives it an overall rating of 3.8, putting it into 3rd place. And in 2nd place is actually my newest wheel. So this is a Pet Shop brand one. This is the Pets at Home wheel, the new one which has just been released. For those of you who aren't in the UK, Pets at Home is our sort of biggest pet shop brand, a bit like PetSmart. So I have previously talked about them in some of my hamster care videos and my hamster cage videos. They have traditionally not been great for their small animal products. As a child, I did get hamsters from Pets at Home when I got their cages and their wheels, and looking back now, I am slightly horrified. However, they have been slowly making steps in the right direction, and their latest move are their new wheels, which I am quite impressed at. So they've come out in 2 different sizes. This is the bigger size. This is 12 inches or 30 centimetres, making it a great size for your Syrian hamsters. Could also be used for your Degus, rats, hedgehogs. Most things could use this wheel. You could also use it for your mice, your gerbils and your small hamsters because it does run very easily. For quality, I'm going to give this a 3. It's not too bad. It is all plastic, but the plastic base feels quite good. However, there is a slight bend to the plastic wheel, but overall not too bad, not too great. So I'm going to give it a middle score of 3 for the quality. For wheelability, this thing runs very nicely. It just keeps going. I like the fact that the inner surface isn't completely smooth. There's sort of small bumps almost to it, making it easy for the animal to run on. You can see that it's still going. So it runs beautifully. So I'm going to give it a 5 for the wheelability. In terms of quietness, it is extremely quiet. You can very occasionally hear it if it like knocks against the stand, but that is quite minimal. Extremely quiet. I'm going to give it a 4.5 for quietness. For flexibility, so you can't attach this to the side of your cage, it is on the stand. However, it has got good movement up and down on the stand, so you can really adjust the height quite nicely. And also what I do quite like about this is it can rotate around its stand. So if you wanted it sort of more in the middle, you could have it like that. You can have it angled if you preferred. I do quite like the fact that you can angle it any way you like, and it's got good up and down movement. So I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5 for flexibility. Finally, for price, so this is currently priced at £15 or £14.99 I believe. Pets at Home does often do vouchers on the My Pets Club. So I think I got this for 10% off, so it actually worked out £13.50, but its base price is £15, which I think is great value for what you get. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 for price. This gives it an overall rating of 4.4 out of 5. It's definitely a move in the right direction by Pets at Home. Finally, in 1st place is the Night Angel wheel. I actually got this wheel second hand off Marketplace, but I love this wheel. It is 11 inches, 29 centimetres roughly, making it suitable again for most small animals. It is all plastic and it just looks very nice. For quality, I'm going to give this 5 out of 5. The base and the stand feel lovely, great quality. So does the wheel itself. There's not much movement when you push on it. I find that getting good quality of plastic also means animals are less likely to chew on it. So that's the plus if you've got Degus or Gerbils, something like that. So definitely a 5 out of 5 for quality. For wheelability, another 5 out of 5. It just runs beautifully. Again, there's little sort of ridges in it, making it easy for the small animal. For quietness, I cannot hear this thing at all. There's no rattling, no whizzing. It is completely silent. So I'm going to have to give this a 5 out of 5 for quietness as well. Flexibility. So like the Pets at Home one, it can move up and down on its stand. So you can take it off the stand and attach this to the side of your cage. And it has also got a decent range of height on the stand. Again, great if you have deep bedding. You can't sort of affect the angle. But overall, it is great for flexibility. So I'm going to give this a 4.5 for flexibility. Finally, price. These are a bit more pricey. I think you can typically get them for about £40. So a bit more expensive than many of the others. So I'm going to give this a 2.5 for price. This overall gives it a score of 4.4. So on score wise, this does put it in joint first for the Pets at Home. But I do have a slight preference for it. But either the Pets at Home or the Night Angel are both fantastic wheels.
So here are all the wheels in order. As I said, this is just my opinion on it, and it's really important to do your own research before purchasing any to make sure you get the right one for your little friend. But here the Degus are enjoying some of them. The main thing when purchasing a wheel is that your animal can run on it with a straight back. This is vital for the animal. Other than that, it needs to be safe and also not too noisy for you. Like and subscribe if you like this kind of video, and hope to see you again soon. Bye!